largest project is our international project, the Liberian Initiative, that involves over 10 volunteers that started in the summer of 2007 and is a 5 to 7 year project, maybe a 10-year project, helping to build capacity in Liberia that was racked by continual civil wars.
The Liberian Civil War broke out in 1989. It was the result of a military coup launched by Charles Taylor against then-President Sam Doe. The war lasted for 14 years. During that time, the casualties were enormous. Both the government and the rebels were losing soldiers so quickly that they began using children to fight in their military forces.
Worldwide, it is estimated that over 300,000 children have served or continue to serve as soldiers. Most of them were conscripted, abducted, some of them volunteered, but most of them were recruited into the war either by governments or rebel factions within governments. They were at the formative years of development. Their education was interrupted, their connections, attachments to their families and communities were interrupted. They experienced brutal initiation rites, which often involved them killing family members.
So in the summer of 2007, I left Pittsburgh for the Buduburam Refugee Camp located right outside of Accra in Ghana. There I was working with a group of former child soldiers that had associated and formed their own group, the Veteran Former Child Soldier Association of Liberia. Now this group was really unique because they had recognized that there was a vacuum, there was a lack of services being provided for them. We conducted interviews of former child soldiers and asked them questions about the circumstances of their recruitment, their experience while they were in the military, and what happened to them afterwards.
What we know is that most of them are now between the ages of 18 and 33. The average age of recruitment was 11.5 years, and that the average length of service in the rebel forces was about 5.5 years. What we really need to understand is that they were at a critical stage in their lives, at the stage at which their identity is formed, recruited into a culture of violence.
Across the board, no one had access to the essential services to help them reintegrate into society. And as a result, we have a group of 300 to 500 former child soldiers that are unemployed, that don't have any real access to income, that have families, that have needs, aren't able to feed themselves, and are suffering the psychological consequences of what happened to them in their youth.
So what we did at MBB was research on reintegration and repatriation and devised what we call our 4-pillar model of reintegration. One of the most critical pieces of this model is that of ensuring their individual well-being. It includes both physical and psychological well-being, and also includes treating the physical wounds of the war. Some of them are walking around with bullets in their bodies. Some of them have wounds that have not healed very well because of the medical care they did not receive. The second is education. Being able to continue to provide vocational and educational skills for all of these young men and women whose education was interrupted. The third is providing them with economic opportunities. What this means is that the vocational skills that they are currently being trained in will translate into jobs when they return to Liberia. And the fourth is their reintegration and repatriation. This is a critical component for these young men and women rejoining the communities from which they came, the communities in which they were forced to perform violent acts. Many of them were forced to kill family members, they were forced to kill members of their community, so their reacceptance into the communities of origin is going to be critical. Over the last few months, we have been working with partners in Liberia who will provide those critical reintegration and rehabilitation services.
In January of 2008, I returned to Buduburam, and together with Mediators Beyond Borders, the Child Soldier Reintegration Fund was able to offer 100 former child soldiers the opportunity to receive vocational training to help achieve normalization within society. A team of approximately 15 different psychologists has been working with this group to help them come to terms with what's happened to them and prepare for the future, whatever it may hold for them in Liberia once they return and are reunited with their communities and are given employment opportunities.
Bob and I had just finished meeting with the students, the former child soldiers, and we had told them about a possible opportunity of working on a plantation. And I had taken pictures of some of the work that was being done at this plantation. I offered to show those pictures, and I was surrounded by about 20 of these young men and a few women. And I was showing them pictures of what the Masons at the plantation were doing. They could see from the pictures that I had taken that they could do the work that was being performed at this plantation. All they wanted to do was to take pictures of me and the wall that they were building that they were so proud of, and they wanted to go to this plantation and use the skills that they had learned in school. And they just wanted to share that. One of the young men grabbed me by the arm and he said, "You have saved me. I had nothing. I was on the streets." And in essence, he said, "You saved my life."
This particular vulnerable population really needs assistance, and although they formed a group to help provide those things for themselves, they don't have the funds to make it possible.
Mediators Beyond Borders has been a secret that really nobody seems to know about. There are over 200 people in the organization. They've gone to various parts of the United States, various countries throughout Africa and other parts of the world. Our Liberian team has over a dozen people at their own expense have spent over 200 days in Liberia and Ghana working with the child soldiers and working in the law schools. And that's what we need the money for and the volunteers for, to help fund this project and to get more people on the field in Africa, really contributing to the economic development of this country and particularly to these child soldiers. For example, $25,000 would pay for a team of carpenters, welders, tradespeople to come for a few months to teach them valuable trades. $20,000 would provide counseling and rehabilitation for as much as 3 or 4 months for 400 people. $15,000 would pay for some counseling sessions and therapy sessions. So these types of gifts, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, can improve the lives of hundreds of people within a period of less than 6 months.
The U.S. Institute of Peace and other sources has indicated that helping ex-combatants, particularly former child soldiers, reintegrate successfully into society has led to greater stabilization and chances for enduring democracy in these countries.